The ego is useful as a map, you could say. As long as you are within the ego, do the opposite of what it suggests you to do. If the ego tells you, and please to understand here, individuality and the ego is not the same thing. The soul is also individualized. The jivatman is also individualized. But the ahamkara, the ego, is the specific individuality that puts itself over others and that seems to have this strange idea that it is sort of the only one alive around. And everybody else is just characters in a movie. It's just objects. It's just people that make your life harder or people that might make your life nicer. But the ego doesn't have an actual reference of anything else but itself being conscious, and doesn't have an actual reference of anything else but itself being relevant. Even so-called helper syndrome egos, also their wish to help everybody is just about profiling itself, about underlining how it is. I am the one that helps, so let me help you. It's like in this joke, maybe you've seen, I was, my God, laughing so much when I saw it the first time. It's like a sketch where the young man goes to the old lady and helps her over the street, and it's like really difficult, and she's like sort of resisting, and it's as if she can't really walk, and he's like nearly carrying her and really making all the effort to get her over the street. And then once they're on the other side, she's just hitting him with the stick on the head and going back on the other side because she was actually waiting for the bus. Something in that direction. So this is how the ego is. It doesn't care if you want to pass the street. It's going to help you pass over the street, right? So whatever the ego suggests, do the opposite. Just don't do what the ego suggests. The ego wants you to be lazy, be active. The ego wants you to be upset and to close, open. The ego wants you to be arrogant and obnoxious, be kind and humble. Do the opposite of what the ego tells you. And this will allow you to free yourself from this imprisonment that the ego creates for us. Once you are more identified with the purer individuality of the soul, then your individuality will actually help you to have even like a romantic relationship with God, if you will. It creates a polarity between the part and the whole that is very, very beautiful. So individuality in itself is not necessarily the problem. The soul doesn't suffer from the fact that it is individualized, because it keeps experiencing itself still as part of the whole, like a cell in the body feels itself like a cell of the body and serves without resting, without question mark, exactly what it is meant to do. The cell in the liver doesn't get angry but why do I have to do the things in the liver? Why can't I be a heart cell? It's not doing that. It's also not packing its bags and going into the kidneys for holidays. It's just doing its thing, and that's it. And so that type of individuality is not at all a problem, and it will help you to find your unique role within this universe, expressing your unique purpose and so forth. But for that, first you have to eliminate this weird, absurd suggestions of the ego, which try to make you have some sort of advantage over the rest, which is like a cancerous cell in the body that is living on the death of the host. So this is not helpful. For that one, do the opposite. You start to have an attitude about being a liver cell, devote yourself to being a liver cell. Watch me, ego. I will be such a liver cell. Wow, amazing. That is somehow the way out.
To follow up on what Blandine mentioned, whatever driving force comes from the ego is doomed to have bad consequences. And effort needs to be made, first of all, to find a spiritual school, because without a spiritual school or spiritual teaching, spiritual teacher, spiritual friend, it's very difficult. You will just have other and other and other and other versions of your ego. And you say, yeah, not the ego, but that's all I can see everywhere. Yes, but through a contact with spiritual school, and that's what we try to do on the weekly courses and so forth, to give a regular impulse, we come into contact with the soul. And then the idea is that the driving force comes from the soul, and the ego can execute here and there. Or it has a small part in the executive role, in getting things out there, the ego and the mind, but quite secondary. The most important task, if you want to have the ego in its place, is to awaken a driving force from the soul, which implies loving 100 times more than what people love. To give you a clear indicator that your heart is just bursting with love. You wake up in the morning as in love as you ever been, more than that, and the whole day you're just overflowing with love. And then from love you have a driving force to do something. From love, from your soul, there is a wish. Yes, I go north. You go north. Your heart knows. And then on the process, you buy the bus ticket or something to go north. You look at, that's a little bit of ego mind over there. Yeah. So the driving force, when it is egoistic, it will only lead eventually to negative things, sooner or later. But when the driving force is essential, is anchored from this aspiration of the heart and of the soul, the ego and the mind, they play a tiny role in executing those aspirations of the heart. That's what they are supposed to do. A little bit to organize information, to have a little bit of a stable identity in order to fulfill those aspirations. The thing with the ego flipped, the misuse of the ego, is that when the ego starts to have its own agenda and motivation. So cut completely, zero agenda, zero any kind of driving force, desire. You just don't follow it. Like Blandine said, you don't follow it. You do the opposite. You follow the spiritual values coming from genuine spiritual scriptures, from genuine spiritual people. You don't follow any egoistic agenda, and then there is a chance. You go from the inspiration of the heart, and life becomes extremely vivid and fulfilling.
Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.